Hello, everybody. Welcome to the final part of 30 Days, 30 Ways UK podcast. Delighted to have our panelists I'll introduce in a minute. Just a bit of a background, as I usually do every time, just to give you background to 30 Days, 30 Ways UK. So it's a national campaign. It runs every September, giving us 30 simple steps, practical steps to get better prepared for emergencies. From floods to power cuts, each day will bring a new tip, a challenge or activity that helps boost our resilience in a light-hearted and engaging way. It's all about making preparedness easy, positive, and even a little bit fun, because being ready for the unexpected doesn't have to really be boring. So hopefully you've been following along and with each day. So these podcasts, panels are here to share practical insights from the experts who help keep our communities safe. So let's meet today's panel members. So we have Jeannie Barr, who's from the chair of the Emergency Planning Society. Welcome, Jeannie.
Thank you. Lovely to be here, and thank you very much for the invite.
You're very welcome. And we're also joined by Beverly Griffiths. Beverly is a professor at Birmingham New University, and you're working a lot with apprenticeships. So welcome, Beverly.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we've got Darren Carson, who's from Northamptonshire Fire and Rescue Service from the prevention team. Welcome, Darren. I know you've been on a few podcasts, as the others are as well. So welcome.
Thank you, Jo. Well, hello, everyone.
Thank you, Darren. And we've also got John Van Gorf. John, are you chair of the VCSEP, which is the Voluntary Community Safety Emergencies Partnership?
Thankfully, I'm not the chair. No, our director, Robin Knox, from the Voluntary and Community Sector Emergencies Partnership. I'm the head of Partnership Insight, so work quite a lot with, as you'd imagine, engaging our partners and trying to gather and share insight across that network. But yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, John. And I know you've supported the campaign on a few years as well, so that's great. Thank you. We were supposed to be joined by Claire O'Donnell from Northern Ireland, but with sincere apologies, she can't make it at the last minute. But she does want to extend her personal thanks to the team for their support and indeed enthusiasm for the campaign. She appreciates it's not an easy task to pull everything together, and she says we do it so flawlessly. So this year's campaign draws to a close. She wants to reiterate the support from Northern Ireland. We had very positive feedback on the campaign, and she looks forward to working with us for many more years to come. And I know if anybody's been following Northern Ireland, I think the whole of Northern Ireland's actually playing along, and there it is very, very positive. So well done, Claire and the team in Northern Ireland. And sorry you can't be with us today, but hopefully we'll see more of them next year. So this week's podcast, preparedness isn't just about you, it's about the people and pets who rely on us every day. This week we're looking at simple actions you can take to keep your whole household safer, healthier, and ready for whatever comes your way. So in an emergency, the most important thing, I think we'll all agree, that we keep our loved ones safe. And it's not just our loved ones, it's all our furry pets, and the non-scaly ones. We talked about that last week. That means that we include everybody, including children, our older relatives and pets, and that we know what to do in case we need to evacuate. This week's daily challenges will help you protect the people and animals you care about the most. So on Monday, we talked about Action Counters Terrorism. So we shared a lot of information about online training that you can have, how to spot and respond to suspicious activity. So if you see it, report it. There are a lot of free training on there, and we shared links, and it takes about 45 minutes to do, but could save lives. So go into the Action Counterterrorism website. There's lots of information there, and you can do the training. So that was Monday. Tuesday we talked about checking and disposing of your out-of-date medication, which is really important. Old medicines can be really unsafe and should be taken to a local pharmacy for disposal. You can't just chuck it in your normal bin. Take it back to your pharmacy, doctors, and they'll dispose of it correctly. they, I know, I tend to perhaps do annually checks of my, my first aid box, and you find medicines that are out of date, a couple of years. I think, do you find that too? I'll ask the panelists. Do you do regular checks of your, yeah.
Don't do regular checks, but when you go to reach for that box of paracetamol and ibuprofen, you find it a couple of years out of date.
Yeah.
You do kind of groan and moan even more than you would. And those regular checks are really quite important, particularly for those that rely on medication for a number of different longer and short-term health conditions. And it is a really important thing for us to be thinking about doing.
Yeah. And also, if you have any medication that perhaps you've got lots of, don't share it with anybody else because it might not be for them. And make sure that you dispose of.
I think with age, that because obviously you start taking medication on a regular basis, I've probably become a little bit more efficient at getting rid of old stuff and a little bit more efficient at checking it. But I have to say, previous to that, I was really hopeless at it. The frustrating thing again is your first aid kit, insofar if you don't constantly check it, your bandages, your plasters, it's not just medication, but everything else goes out of date as well. And you have a tendency to say, well, how can a plaster go out of date? Well, they do. The sticky thing goes out of date, but it's the pad within it that then becomes hygienic and it's unsafe to use. So again, not just medication, look at your first aid kit and make sure that your plasters, your bandages and all the rest of it are all still in date, because they do go out of date. They do have a shelf life.
Yeah, no, they do. And I bet my first aid kit in my car that I've had in there for years, I bet there's some things that are outdated in that. So yeah, I'm going to do that later. I'll check it.
I think the other thing we should do is check on our loved ones. Beans with this is a theme for this week. I do remember an old auntie when I was younger who used to have kind of tablets on the fireplace, and often said to my mother, when I become a nurse, I wondered whether she had actually had a review of them and whether they were out of date, and like you're saying, if you get lots of them, make sure you're using the first ones first. You rotate them as well. The dates, else you will get out of date ones and you think you've got a good supply, but you might not have a good supply. So diabetes, those kind of heart tablets that you might get a stock of because they give you kind of 6 months worth, is making sure that you are managing your medicines as well, and for those other loved ones around us.
Yeah, very true. Thank you. And just for those online watching this, if you've got any questions, please, the question and answers are open. So if you put them through, I can ask the questions to the panelists. So thank you. So that leads us on to the next day, which is all about, I suppose, food on your shelves. Now, again, when you check your medicines, who's found an old packet of cake mix in the back of your cupboard that's from 1998 or something? but the day on Wednesday was all about having preparedness at home. So if you were asked to shelter in place, stay in, and have you got enough? Can you survive for 3 days? I know I've got tons of tins and I've got water at home, so I've got that, and I probably definitely could say 100% I won't need to go to the shops for 3 days. How about the rest of you? Have you got enough? And also, they say that you should have enough for 3 days, but I know there's a lot of thought out there that you should have more to last for about a week. So I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
I think certainly for us in Scotland, we have a lot of rural communities that live up the glens, etc. And the best people to speak about as far as resilience is concerned is to speak to the people who live in these communities. They don't have regular internet. They have power cuts on a regular basis. They're cut off sometimes because of severe weather and all the rest of it. And they have a system and a community that supports each other, makes sure, goes and checks on each other, and makes sure that they have the supplies in stock. And again, you know, looking at my mum, etc., she would make pickled onions and jam and all sorts of preserves to have in the cupboard, because they lived in a generation where there was a lot of regular power cuts. And we could learn a lot, because all the legacy and the knowledge from that, unfortunately, as people age, is lost. And to a certain degree, we've become a generation of convenience, insofar as the expectation is we will always have phones, electricity, internet, food, water, etc., etc. And so when we do have a power cut, it becomes more extreme than perhaps previous generations would have felt about it, because they would have made do. And again, as I say, looking at some of the rural communities that don't necessarily have immediate access to what, households living in towns, cities, whatever, have huge amount of experience in that, and we could learn so much from them.
Yeah.
I pickle everything and jam it and whatever. I'm not sure if I would eat the jam or the pickle, but I've certainly got cupboards of it.
Jeannie raises a really good point there. You know, you could have a few days without power, so thinking about what kind of food you would have, so things like hams in tins and things like that, corned beef, that kind of thing, that but doesn't need heating, because we don't want to obviously cause fires or anything like that, but thinking those things through. Even things like powdered milk, ensuring that perhaps powdered milk or pasta, and tins, as you said, but just a few of those things. But we're not talking about expense here. We're talking about perhaps some of the basics, having those basics, and being able to perhaps change your diet a little bit during that period. You're not particularly going to have perhaps a curry or something like that, but maybe some cereal and milk, that kind of thing. The packets of cereal, or tinned meat, as I said, it could be quite useful. So just thinking through what you could live on for a few days at least.
Yeah. You can get
really good
Sorry.
point. Yeah, it's a really good point. I think even if you live in an urban area, like Julie said, one of the sort of basic things you do is keep an eye on the weather. You can know what it's like. Sometimes we get snowfall, or in my county, we've had communities affected by flooding. So I think it's just being kept aware, and even something as simple as keeping your eye on the weather and thinking, right, if we're due a heavy snowfall, for example, what do I need to stock up on? What have I got enough of? What I don't have enough of? Do I need to check on a relative or a neighbour or something like that? So there's little sort of common sense things like that I think you can do to kind of help yourself prepare.
Yeah, definitely. And we're talking about go in, stay in, tune in. So, we talked about safe escape last week. So if you have to get out, how to get out safely. But if you're told to go in, stay in and tune in, that's the message. So you tune into local radios, and then they'll be able to tell you what's going on. But you can get all sorts in a tin these days, can't you? Yes, spag bowl, all sorts. You can eat them cold, but you yeah.
And Darren actually makes a great point, actually keeping an eye on the weather forecast. And again, it's because I've worked in this sort of area for a long time. My grandson, as soon as we get rain or whatever, and there is threat of a power cut, he goes and immediately charges up all the battery packs. And I don't know if that's because, grannies always nagged me when I was younger, but he was, he runs around picking up all the charging battery pack things for additional power and charges them all up. And nobody's allowed to touch them, because that's a priority.
That's fabulous.
Makes sure all the torches are charged up and everything, and then says, right, we need to get some hot water boiled and all that sort of stuff. And again, it's not because he's had a lived experience. We've had power cuts, but not extreme power cuts. But he just seems to have sort of adopted the behaviour of when there's a threat of power cut, or we've got snow or rain or whatever, or the flooding or wind. It's more severe wind for us. He will go and get everything charged up, and start getting hot water, whatever, ready. So
that is so good. Wouldn't it be great if we could have every child can do that? Brilliant. So that was Wednesday. So that was the go and stay and tune in make sure that you've got enough at home to last for 3 days, perhaps up to 7 days. And then Thursday, leading into children, was all about children and about making sure that they know what to do in an emergency, because you don't try and keep disasters away from children. They can help you with their household emergency plan, make sure that they know what to do if you had to evacuate or stay in. And also and I know there was a lot shared about all the disaster games that they can play. I know when we go out to communities, we get them to do a grab bag game. What would they put in a grab bag? And kids love doing stuff like that, and then they learn to about the wind up torch, or getting the batteries for your torch, so and all of that. So and I know my children, I try to, although they weren't as good as your grandkids, Jeannie, but I try to get my children to be a bit more savvy on what to do and have a grab bag, so that that it was all about children yesterday. And then today is all about emergency apps. So I know I've got loads of apps on my phone, and we shared a few today. I don't want to go through them. I want to ask sort of, what emergency apps have you got on your phone? And I'll start with John. What apps do you rely on?
Well, one of the ones I've used quite a lot is What Three Words, not least for my own kind of like personal life, but in business life as well. Getting to meetings, but absolutely in the heat of an emergency, if I needed to kind of very quickly share with loved ones or family where I was, or to the emergency services, What Three Words I've used and referred to quite a lot. I found it's a great piece of tech.
No, that is great, and that's been on every single panel. I think we've mentioned What Three Words, because emergency services use them. I've even started putting it into my meeting, the agendas. Putting What Three Words on there as well. Yes, great. Yeah. I've got What Three Words.
Yeah. The other one, sorry, can I just quickly
go.
mention the British Red Cross first aid app? There are other first aid apps out there. That happens to be the one that I use. When I first had children 4 years ago now, that was one of the first things I remember thinking, like, I need to be prepared for any eventuality, and I've got a little one to look after as well as myself now. So how do I make sure I look after myself and I look after them at the same time? So that was a really important one, just for day to day, but also for that moment of an emergency. So some form of first aid app on my phone always exists. No,
they're good. That's good. Beverly.
Yeah, John's stolen some of mine, I think, but I think we've all got the same. But what one I do have is Citizen Aid. That's a really good app for response in emergencies to first aid, and it links to a lot of other information as well. So that's one I have. So, but I'll let others have theirs.
Thanks, Beverly. Jeannie.
I have the Met Office on. And I have SEPA, because obviously that's the environmental agency across the border, but I've got the SEPA app on for flood as well. So, and JESIP too.
Yeah. So I mean, we mentioned sort of the severe weather day, about the severe weather apps. They're great for knowing and getting alerts from flood warnings and these severe weather warnings. But yeah, JESIP I've got on mine as well. I'm sure quite a lot of our partners have.
Yeah.
Darren, what have you got any more that people haven't mentioned?
Yeah, similar to what the other panelists have spoken about. And the other one I have is the Highways app as well. So if you're planning a journey, it's a really good one to look at as well. It's always a handy one to have. But all the other apps that panelists have mentioned, around the What Three Words, Met Office, JESIP, they're all really useful apps to have on your phone.
Yeah, and I must admit, I use Waze. Waze is great for knowing, one, for knowing where all the potholes are, because people seem to like to plot where all the potholes are, but it also says, what places are flooded. And I know for our partners, it links in with direct mapping as well. You can put a Waze over top of that, which is really good. So I do use the Waze app a lot. So what is in your digital bag? So if you want to share that, please, if people know any ones that we don't know of, put it in the comments. Okay, so
And the other, Joanne, the
yeah.
other thing to say is if you do have some apps on, especially the first aid, etc., look at them before something happens. Because when something happens, the likelihood is you won't have time to look.
Yeah.
Or it may be that you don't have service, but look at the apps which have great, tips and tricks, for instance, the first aid ones, or even the ones about flooding, etc., that give advice.
Mm-hmm.
Look at them before. Look at them in peacetime, if you will, in time before something happens, so that you start getting a plan in your head of some of the things that you can do to help yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. And also you can, I've seen a lot of these apps, you can tick that you're safe as well, aren't you? I know it happened in the attacks in London, people will register themselves safe. So it saves phone calls. You can actually do that, and people know, loved ones know that you're safe. So you can actually put that. I think that's a citizen aid, isn't it, that can do that?
Yes.
I think you do,
yeah.
and Facebook. I think you do on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So that was yesterday. No, that was today. So that's today's app. We're talking about apps. And as every time with these panels, we do a bit of a cheat and go into the weekend so people know what's coming. So tomorrow's all about road safety. I know that it seems like we've gone from summer to almost autumn, and everything's dark at night. So Darren, how can we be a bit better prepared on our roads?
Yeah, it's like you're saying, and it's like somebody's flicked a switch, isn't it? And changed from summer to autumn sort of straight away. So, yeah, I mean, the most obvious thing now going into autumn is, like you said, it's the darker nights, and give it a few weeks and it'll be the darker mornings as well. So when we kind of look at road safety, we look at pedestrians, we look at cyclists, motorcyclists, vehicle users, horse riders. So there's a vast array of people, and I suppose the most obvious one is be safe, be seen, isn't it? As the nights come in now and it's getting darker, it's be safe, be seen. So we'd always recommend you can have a look on your local fire and rescue website. There'll be lots of road safety information on there, RAC, AA, things like that. Even things for drivers. So we use an acronym in my county when we're doing road safety for drivers. We call it FLOWER, and it's about your vehicle checks. So it's fuel, lights, oil, water, electric, and rubber. Rubber being your tires. So little things like that about checking your vehicles weekly before you go on a long journey, that type of thing. So I think what a lot of the panelists are saying. I think it's just stopping to think about the conditions that are coming, and having a little think about what you can do to keep other people on the road safe, but ultimately keeping yourself and your family safe as well.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. I mean, I know I've got a little bit. We talked about grab bag last week, but I mean, I've got a bit of a grab bag in my car. Blanket. You go with the seasons, don't you? So you get some blanket in case you break down for warmth. And definitely get your car checked just before. I know my garage does like winter checks, so get car checked for winter.
Yeah. The one thing I've noticed this week taking the children to school is the sun so low at the moment and blinding, and people are kind of forgetting sunglasses, and because it's getting darker, and at night people are forgetting to put their lights on their cars and things like that, which is just that changing season catches people out. So that FLOWER acronym is brilliant.
Yeah, I think you're right, Beverly. I think it's what you hit the nail on the head. There's drive into the conditions as well. That's really, really important. Think about the conditions and kind of drive appropriate to them as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know whether we're going to see snow this year, but obviously if it does, make sure that you clear all snow from your vehicle before setting off. I've seen in the past, people scraping a little bit, so unsafe. Yeah.
I don't think about the snow behind the car,
No,
so it falls off into your windscreen.
Yeah. Let's hope. Yeah, I don't like snow, so I do like it, but not driving in it. Okay, so that's on Saturday. So have a look what's going on. Loads of partners playing, so they'll be all sharing the best practice tomorrow. And then on Sunday, it sort of goes a bit of a fun day about offline entertainment. So we talked about power cuts. We talked about trying to keep children happy. And adults happy if there's no power. So whether you have books, keep games, try and keep everybody occupied without those screens. Wi-Fi goes off. That's a whole horror in my household. A whole other disaster. But we've got, oh crumbs, I must have about 50 board games at my house. So we'd pull the board games off, and we like playing them at the weekends anyway. What sort of things would you do? I mean, would you get the board games out or the cards?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got dominoes and cards are our favourites here. So it starts off friendly, then starts getting really competitive after a while, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, good game of Monopoly. That always gets competitive in my house.
We go quite simple at Christmas actually, or when there's power cuts. We get a big sheet of paper and do the good old charades and hangman and actually gets quite competitive then, trying to figure out films and stuff like that. Even with the older teenagers, they get quite competitive. Or the Uno game can be really competitive as a family.
I love Uno.
It's quite competitive, definitely. But yeah, we've got board games and things like that. But yeah, often just the simplest, just standing up in front of doing charades and hangman can be quite fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I was
go on.
just going to add, same in our household. We've got younger children, so a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So relatively simple to keep them entertained. It's not always easy. What I would say though is something I think we've picked up on the entertainment factor, and the thing that we've been thinking about particularly with the 4-year-old is there will come a time where you need to kind of distract them and to try and kind of get them to play and to not maybe think about the situation that's going on, but it's also not to entirely deviate from that. Like, they will have some concerns and issues and risks, and they will have some things that they want to kind of speak with you about. So to give a bit of time for the play in the distraction part, but also to set some time aside to understand what they're thinking, how they're what they're feeling, and to not just entirely kind of push that to one side and think about their kind of mental health in the moment, as well as how that might impact in the longer term as well. It's easier for the 1-year-old, you can generally kind of just wave something in front of her, but for the 4-year-old, she's articulate and she can see things and she notices things, and I think there's only so far that distraction plays before you really do need to address some of the things that she's maybe saying. So yeah, that's the thing that we've got in our mind.
Good point.
How you strike that balance is tough.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
sorry, on you go.
I was just saying, I was Group Scout leader, and I was a pack leader of beavers and scouts during the Aran Grand incident, and we didn't shy. We asked the parents, we didn't shy away from it, and we had that conversation with the kids, and just said about. So we used the Act and we used public safety, see it, and have those plans when you're out and about, and we linked it to emergency management at home as well. Have you got home plans? So you're right, it's about having those conversations, and during COVID I had those conversations with my own children. They started panicking about power, and they started worrying about perhaps toilet roll and things like that. And my son was a vegetarian, so the pasta gate was quite an issue. But so we started talking about, well, what ifs and okay, what would we do without type thing? How would we cope? So some of those kind of being prepared messages are really important to have that conversation with. So John raises a really important point there.
Yeah, definitely.
I think actually having the time to sit and talk is actually a really good thing. Even just sitting around, and being able to tell stories or share experiences or whatever. It's sometimes the quiet of no power and none of the digital stuff going on and flashing lights gives you an opportunity to take a breath as a family and sit and actually talk, tell stories, share experiences. And, thinking, and again about COVID, just thinking about sort of the impact and consequences of everybody outside that little home unit, just not scaring people, just sharing, actually taking the time to take a breath, take a minute and have a chat. Sometimes I quite like that when we don't have all the electric stuff and all the other stimulations going on. And then the next time we'll play hiding extreme Cluedo, where we hide in the dark. So So there's lovely family time with conversations and stories, but there is extreme Cluedo.
I like
that we
that
quite
side of
enjoy
that.
too.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think sometimes people on their electronic devices too much. I think, you know, every family should have a day off and just sit and talk and and play a good old board game. Okay, so that's on Sunday. So hopefully a lot of people sharing what they'll do and what their favourite board games are. But I do think perhaps we should put some cards or pack a Uno into your grab bag. So that would be that's quite good. So so that's Sunday, and then Monday, last but one day, is all about volunteering. So you know, I think this is a really good day to try and get people to sort of volunteer. And John, you're here representing the voluntary and community sector. So John, can you talk to us all about volunteering, what people can do and get involved?
Yeah. I mean, people can volunteer in a whole host of different ways. You can be more formal through an organisation, one that specialises maybe in emergencies like React Disaster Response or St John Ambulance or British Red Cross. But it can be beyond, like, so much easier than that. And it can be so much different than that. It can be about how you build resilience in your community by providing a bit of time or talent that otherwise would go unused, and helping your community, being part of your community in that respect. It doesn't need to be focused on emergencies for it to build resilience. It doesn't need to be focused on emergencies for you to be kind of supporting people in how reducing their social isolation and their connectedness within communities, which builds their preparedness for different incidents and scenarios. So really urge people to kind of go on the gov.uk prepare website. There are a whole host of different organisations you can look at volunteering with there. Check in with your local volunteer centres. That's probably one of the first things I'd say. There are a load of different opportunities for people to kind of to really be a part of their community and to build cohesion and resilience, and to help others around you in an emergency, but in advance of that. So yeah, I really urge people to give a bit of time, and it feels good, right? It feels really good to help people and be part of that broader team. So yeah, if you haven't volunteered before, maybe be inspired by this, and after Monday to go out and spend your first volunteering hour with a local team. That'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, John. And it does. We talked. We had a day on mental health, didn't we? And I think volunteering, meeting new people, boosts your own sort of mental health, doesn't it? And I mean, I used to volunteer for Neighbourhood Watch, and I know there's loads and loads of people out there that do have their own Neighbourhood Watch coordinators, and we rely on them to look after, you know, vulnerable people. And I know when COVID struck in 2020, a lot of those groups set up and checking on vulnerable people. And John said about, you know, support in your own community. We try and get communities to have their own emergency plans, try and get involved in that to look after them in case you do get isolated, whether that's through snow or utility outage. You know, they can do so much.
Yeah. There's a lot of research as well, folks, to support they call it pro-sociality, but actually the welfare of yourself. It's not just about, you know, being seen to do, but the welfare to you, and also it will support you in your own career and your life as you move forward. So connecting with others, even if you just, as John says, you might just walk down your own street and connect with the people because they'll be in the same situation perhaps as you. You don't have to join a big group and lots of time, but just little things like that can really help you too. So yeah.
So that's on Monday, and then on Tuesday is our last day, which we sort of leave to a bit of a mismatch of the best bits and thank you for everybody taking part. So that's that's it. So that's the 2025 campaign over. That'll be 30 days. Is anybody, before I sort of wrap up, is there anything that anybody wants to add?
Just a big thank you to yourself and to everybody else who contributes. It's a fantastic campaign, and let's hope it goes from strength to strength, and you know, we'll have chats about further developments and all that sort of stuff. But you know, just thank you, Joanne. I mean, it's your imagination, it's your passion, it's your innovation, and yours and all the partners that help in actually producing and developing this. It's a really important campaign, especially now. Really is important.
Yeah, and
So thank you.
What we do every year is we'll have a report on how this year's gone. There's hundreds of partners across the UK that's been playing, so you know that's a big thank you to all of those. If you just if you go into your social media and then just search for 30 Days 30 Ways UK, you'll see the whole host of best practice from the UK that will come up, and it's been fabulous. It's been really good this year. So yeah, a big thank you to everybody that's taken part. So preparedness is an act of care. So the more that you're ready, the more you can protect those who count on you. And that leads on to the survey. So we do have the preparedness survey. We'll leave that open till the end of October. So with the report that I've mentioned, we'll also have the findings from this year's survey as well. So that's week 4 gone. It's all about protecting your family, and that is all. So and that's a wrap for the whole campaign. So thank you ever so much. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you for those that have joined the call. And I'll see you all again next year. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks all.
everybody.
Take care.